Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant and fellow entrepreneur. And let's face it, there's always more to do than there is time to do it. So these 5 business systems are going to help you stay more organized, choose what's most important, and hopefully, just hopefully, help you get a little more checked off that to-do list. So timestamps below, along with some other helpful deeper dive productivity videos to staying organized and optimized in growing your business. So as we dive into these 5 systems, first, let's go ahead and tackle what type of software is the best type of software to use when it comes to staying organized and optimized and effective with running your business. So I recommend having 3 different types of productivity apps. The first one is a note-taking application. The second one, of course, is going to be a project management application. And finally, but not least, is a file storage system. Now, while I like to use Evernote, Basecamp, and Google Drive, you can use whatever applications work best for you and your company. And I'll get more into the different types of applications you can use as we go through this process. So what I like doing is having Evernote for all of my personal notes and ideas. Then project management application, Basecamp or Asana, is going to be all of the active projects, keyword being active. And then number 3, Google Drive is just of course going to house all of our files. But of course you can use Box 365 or Dropbox, whatever works best for you. So kicking things off with the very first system is going to be managing and handling your ideas. Because after all, you're an entrepreneur, which means you have a ton of different ideas and there are a ton of different things that you could be doing to grow your business or just try out, right? So what I like doing is creating 3 separate notes in my Evernote. So again, you can use whatever note-taking application you want, but here are the 3 I recommend setting up. The very first one is going to be a collection box. So as new ideas come up or new potential projects come up, you go ahead and just drop all of those in there. So don't let them touch your project manager. Put everything that you're thinking about doing, cool ideas, half cool ideas you don't think would ever work, go ahead and just put all of those in a collection box note. And I like to have a separate notebook just for these ideas. And if you're one of those people who likes to physically write down their ideas and notes, I do recommend, at least on a weekly or monthly basis, going ahead and adding all of those notes into Evernote, because it's very important that you have all of those ideas in one place so you never miss them and you never lose out on them. And then the second step here is going to be your review. And what you want to do on a weekly or monthly basis is go through all of the ideas, go through all the potential projects, and actually make a strategic decision as to whether or not there should be something you should do. And so there are 3 places you can take your business ideas at this point. The first place is you decide, hey, this is something that's really important and valuable, we should do it. Then you go ahead, take all that information, put it in your project manager. Then the second one is, that would be great, but not right now. So you're going to use your second note in whatever note-taking application you are, and you're going to call that note your not to-do list. So it's something you want to do in the future, just not now, not within the next 3 or 6 months. And then finally, you're going to have those ideas that you really do want to do or you think would be cool, but they're like a year or 2 off, right? Or they're just not important. And then you go ahead and put that into a wish list note. And so you have your collection box where you've put all of your ideas, and then you have your not to do list, and then you have your wish list. And of course, those will house all of your notes. They'll keep all of your ideas organized, and you're never going to have to worry about forgetting a great idea or half great idea that you had in the past. Now, the reason that I recommend doing things like this is because you want to make sure that your project manager doesn't get muddled up with all of the things that you're thinking about doing, right? Your project manager is designed to help you work on your current projects, not think about or wish about future projects. So keep all of the projects that are not, or all the information for the projects that aren't currently being worked out right now in this quarter or the next 6 months inside of your note-taking application to keep your business process clean. Especially if you are a solopreneur right now, this is going to be monumentally important when you start bringing people onto your team, because someone else is going to look at your project manager and see all of that and go, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm supposed to be looking at, right? Whereas if you keep all of those business ideas inside of your own personal note-taking app and only put the ones that you're actually working on inside your project manager, it's going to be a lot more effective and streamlined. And of course, you have that that wish list. And something that I like to do with the wish list is if I have a free Saturday or Sunday afternoon, sometimes I work on those projects, but I never put them inside of our project manager because it's not a part of what we're currently working on. And when we go through business system number 5, your weekly calendar blocking or time blocking, you'll see how you can actually take this process and include it as a part of your weekly routine. So the second business system we have to go over is setting your goals. Now, goal setting is this really, really pie in the sky process where you're thinking about all the things that you want to achieve, and most of the times you'll have these pie in the sky things that you want to achieve and ideas, and then you have your project management reality. So here is a quick system to really take everything that you want to achieve and actually bring it down to a project plan that you can execute on right now. I'll link up in the cards in the description to a video that takes a much deeper dive on this process. I'm just going to 80/20 it for you. So as a digital business owner or service provider, you probably have the same types of goals that most other business owners have, which is more customers, more sales, growing your team, improving your products and services, right? So there are really only 13 different types of goals you can set for yourself. So something that we like doing is we set 1 or 2 big goals per quarter, and then that's it. So it allows us to really focus on what's important. So we use something called the digital business quadrants that you can see in this diagram. So we have team, which is all of our internal management and hiring and firing. Then we have our content, which is creating YouTube videos for you that might be blog posts or a podcast. And then of course our sales funnel, which is our sales process, getting new clients, getting new students. And then of course our products and services, delivering on client services and creating new digital products. And so within each one of these quadrants, you're going to have really just one of 3 different types of goals. Content has a 4th goal, but we'll get to that in a moment. So inside of your team quadrant, you're going to want to set one of these 3 types of goals. You're going to set a surge goal, which means you have a goal to hire a specific person or set of people over the coming 3 months. You're going to have a refine goal where you're looking at your current business processes, and you're figuring out how do we make this faster, more effective. And then number 3 is going to be explore, and this is where you're training. So this could be saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to purchase a course for someone on my team and I'm going to train them, or I'm going to purchase a course or go to a seminar for myself and improve my own skills, right? So it doesn't always have to be something where you need a team in order to have a goal here. Even if you only have one virtual assistant or no virtual assistants, creating a process so that in the future you can have one is a great goal to have for this quadrant. Now, when it comes to content creation, again, you have the 3 main types of goals, which is surge, refine, and explore, but then you also have sustain. So surge is going to be where you are going to increase the amount of content that you're creating. So you're on the same platform, you're just making more content, you're posting more. Refine is where you keep the current level of posting that you have, but you figure out how to improve your end product or improve the process you go through for making your content so it doesn't take you as long. Explore, this is where you're actually going to go test out a new platform. But of course, you don't want to increase the amount of content you're doing on your current platforms and then try and explore another platform at the same time. There's just not enough time in the week, right? Which is why you want to pick one in each one of these quadrants at most. And then of course, sustain. Sometimes you're so busy with other things in your business, it's just a goal to keep your content going. This next one, we have sales funnel. And of course, your objective here is to acquire customers predictably on autopilot. So when you're setting a quarterly or annual goal for your sales funnel, you either want to choose surge, refine, or explore. Surge, you have a process and you're just pouring more ad dollars into it, or you're making more sales calls, you're engaging with more Facebook groups, you're just going after more customers using the process you already have. Refine, this is going to be where you might upgrade or optimize your process and begin to automate some of your customer acquisition, especially if you are doing it manually right now. And of course, explore, this is where you try new traffic platforms or you try out a new way of generating leads and customers for your business. Now, this final one, product, is where you're going to set a business goal to either improve your current products, learn more about your customers, or explore creating a new product. So as an example, here are our 1-year goals for 2020. For our team, our goal is surge. We're going to hire 3 writers and 1 content manager. For content, our goal is sustain and explore. So we're going to try out posting 200 blog posts this year and then continue our current content posting of about 3 videos a week, so 150 content videos. I'll get to why there's 8 instead of 4 here in a moment. And then sales funnel, we have explore and refine. So we have some current funnels that we want to be more efficient. Then of course we want to create some new funnels, and for our product, we want to create a new product and refine a current service that we have. Now, remember I talked about having only 1 per quadrant, right? And that's for you. So you can have a goal for other people on your team. For example, here, there are 8 because it's myself and my business partner. So I get 4 and he gets 4. And hopefully we're able to complete them by the end of the year. And as you'll notice, there's 4 quarters in a year and we only have 4 goals. And that's because each one of these goals represents a quarter. Now, of course, you can break down how big or small your goals are or how much you want to achieve in a quarter. But remember, especially if you're in side hustle mode, you probably have 10 to 20 hours, 25 hours, absolute max per week. So it's really important to make sure that you choose the most important one that's going to give you the most leverage in the future. And even though myself and my business partner are actually working full time now, I almost said still side hustle, we're working full time now, we still go through that process of choosing if we can only do 1 per quarter, 1 for the year, what's going to make the biggest impact, give us the most leverage long term, and that's almost always what we wind up focusing on. Now, before we move on to our file management system using Google Drive, Box, or Office 365, or Dropbox, it's important to note that each one of these goals is unique in that they are action-based. You'll notice we didn't talk about number of subscribers, number of sales, number of new customers, because when you're doing that, all of those types of result-based goals should be a part of your vision, whereas your day-to-day, your weekly, your monthly, and your quarterly and annual goals should be action-based, because at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you control your actions and pretty much nothing else. It's actually crazy how much things are going to change and be thrown at you. You're going to get curveballs, potholes, quicksand left and right as you're trying to build your business. And the only thing at the end of the day you can control, the factor, is what you do with your time and how you respond to all of those traps and curveballs along the way. And while it might seem a little demoralizing saying, wow, I'm only going to accomplish 1 thing this quarter, that's how businesses grow. You accomplish 1 and then another, and they stack up, and eventually it reaches your big vision. So again, I'll link up in the cards and the description to a video that takes a much deeper dive on goal setting, as well as a video linked there that will also show you how to create your vision and your vision board if that's not something that you've done already. You don't really know what your why is or your core purpose of your business. So now let's go ahead and talk about file management. Yay! Everyone's favorite subject, right? Probably not, but hit that like button anyway if you're still watching. So we use Google Drive, but what we're about to go through will work for pretty much any type of file management system that you decide to use. And so here's a screenshot of what our Google Drive looks like. We actually use G Suite for Business, and so we have something called Team Drives. Now, you don't necessarily have to use G Suite for Business if you want to follow this format. I just highly recommend it because it's only $10 a month per person, and once you have 5 people, it becomes unlimited storage. So something you can do if you're really on a tight budget, you didn't hear this from me, you could have just 5 paid people and then everybody else can be a private account just to get you to that unlimited thing. But I didn't say that, right? So let's go ahead and go through the team drives that we use. So the first 2 that we have are specifically for founders in management. So the first drive we have is going to have all of your legal agreements, your financials, your meeting notes, bank statements, tax documents, and then your visions, your vision board, and your goals. So this is going to be something that is only available to you and your business partner or partners if you have them. So that's why we call this founders, because this is never supposed to be shared with anyone else. Obviously, if you have an accountant, you can go ahead and create a separate folder for all that accounting stuff and give them access to the accounting software, but that's the only exception here. So the second folder we have here is going to be your management team. So if you have a project manager, you wind up having HR because you're growing like crazy, right? This is going to be where you have all of your teammate, contractor, employee information, your job posting templates, your schedules of what people's pay raises or beginning pay rates might be. And then the next folder that you're going to have, or next drive that you're going to have, is of course going to be your actual company drive. Now in this screenshot, you can see that we actually have a lot of other drives too for each one of those quadrants, as well as one for a swipe file and media library. And I actually no longer recommend doing it like this. When we get to the project management software, you'll see why we're actually phasing those out and why we're actually changing things a little bit. So let's go ahead and dive into the Aspire Entrepreneur team drive here so you can see how we organize everything to keep our clients and customers happy, as well as, of course, make sure that we get our videos out on time. Now, the first one we have is the collection box, and this is going to be your one messy drawer, right? We all have a kitchen, and there's always that one drawer that seems to have all the miscellaneous stuff, right? So that's what this collection box is. All of the miscellaneous stuff that you either haven't planned for, or a new team member doesn't know where to put things, right? And so this makes sure that things are never put in the wrong place, because if someone doesn't know exactly where it's supposed to go, they just put it in the collection box and then ask where it should go later, right? Or you can go ahead and have a monthly or weekly time where you go through your collection box and you send everything out. So you can see it's a very similar format to what we talked about in the first business system, organizing your business ideas. And so that's all the collection box is there for. Now, the second one we have is going to be our team drive. And so this is going to be all of the project processes and team training. So just like YouTube videos like this one, we create a lot of internal videos to show people how to do particular projects that we work on a lot. So that's where all of those are stored, and that way it doesn't get muddied with all of the deliverable files that we have. So all of the training goes in this folder, and then all the deliverables go in all the other folders, right? So speaking of deliverables, the next one we have is going to be content. And this is going to be where you put all of your, well, content, right? So when you're creating YouTube videos, creating blog posts, you're making Facebook posts, you of course need to save that someplace. So you can go ahead and create a content folder and then just have a folder for each one of those platforms. And that way it's really easy to remember and know what was posted and maybe when it was actually posted. So this next one is going to be sales funnel. So this is where anything that's related to making sales or generating leads, everything goes in there. And so that way, if we hire a copywriter or an ads manager, they can just go to that folder and they have everything that they need. Next, of course, we have products. And so this is where we either store internal client files, not external client files, but internal client files, or raw files of our courses or digital products. And finally, we have our media asset library. So when we use stock footage or we create some graphics for something, we'll go ahead and store it there. And that way, everyone on the team can go access that, because after all, you might have a graphic designer that makes a really cool ad, and then someone's working on a Facebook post and they might actually want to use that asset. But if you save all of the assets in the individual folders, those two team members are never going to know that that asset existed. So we always put everything that we make that can be used or we pay for, because we have to buy stock footage, right? So anything that we make or pay for that could be used for multiple purposes goes into that media folder. And so that's a quick rundown of how we stay organized and streamlined with creating our content, and of course making sure our clients and customers stay happy and we don't lose any files. Now, I do recommend setting up a separate team drive or a separate personal drive that you share files back and forth with your clients, but everything that we've talked about should be shared only with actual contractors and team members, because you want to make sure that it's really clear what is for clients and what is for yourself, right? Because you definitely don't want to make the mistake of having some internal notes and then your client sees them, and that's just not a good recipe for success. So that does it for our file management system. And system number 4 is of course going to be your project management. So I highly recommend taking what we've talked about with the quadrants and continuing to use that through your project management system as well. So here's a screenshot of our old Asana. We've actually moved to Basecamp now, but as you can see, we create projects based upon those major quadrants and the major folders. So of course we have a project specifically for YouTube, and then we'd have a project for blog posts. And if we're doing general social media like Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, we'd probably just have a general project file for that. Although we post so little on those platforms, we didn't actually create a project. So taking a look at our Basecamp here, you can see that we have our 5 teams. We have one for founders, then we have our leadership, content, sales funnel, and product. So earlier when I mentioned all of those folders that I didn't talk about, we're actually phasing those folders out and moving all that information into Basecamp, which is a big reason why I really like Basecamp. Although I realize that for most new business owners paying $1,200 a year or $1,000 plus $200 for the reoccurring task plugin, that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Of course, Asana is free and you can go ahead and use Asana for the exact same thing. And then of course you can see down here, we have our individual projects for our products, services, and content. And so finally, we have system number 5, and that is going to be how you time block your week. And so I recommend using something like Google Calendar for this because it's very easy to adjust your time blocks, which is something you really want to do. So you can easily go back and look at how your time blocks changed over the week versus what you thought the week was going to look like, because they almost always change, right? Life happens. So the very first thing you want to do when you're planning out your week is, of course, figure out a frame for your week and set up your stones. So first, your frame is what time are you going to wake up? What time are you going to go to sleep? And then are you going to work out? That's pretty much all you need for your frame. You need to make sure that you're getting your sleep and you're working out. If you disagree with me, oh well, you can stay up as late as you want, right? That's just a fair warning. And then number 2, you want to go ahead and put in anything that has already been scheduled or that you don't have control over. So this is great, something that I did when I was still working part-time in my business. I would have a giant time block in the middle of the day where I had to go to work, right? Like I don't really get to tell my boss, yeah, I'd rather just come in at 12 o'clock today and then I'll make the hours up on the weekend, right? Nobody has that kind of flexibility. So you want to make sure that you're realistic with your time blocks, and of course make sure that you give yourself time to actually travel to places. So if you have to commute, which most of us do, then go ahead and make sure that you have that time buffered out so that you don't accidentally schedule something when you should be in the car, on the bus, or train, however you get to work. So next, you want to schedule your founder time. So if you're in side hustle mode, your founder time is most likely going to merge with your manager time, which we'll get to in the next step. But essentially, if you have a team member that you have to meet with every single week, or you have a business partner, or even if you're just a solopreneur, have 2 hours a week where you do all of those high level tasks where you're looking at your business ideas, you're evaluating your goals, maybe you're just doing your accounting because you don't have a bookkeeper yet, but you will have at least that much work or meetings. And of course, if you're really just getting started, sometimes this founder time might just be an hour, and again, it might be combined with your manager time. In this particular example, I meet with my business partner on Fridays, and our meetings are generally pretty long because we try and do everything at once as opposed to little meetings throughout the week, and so that's why this one is so long. Now, the second thing you want to time is your maker time or your builder time. So this is where you're not being a founder and you're not being a manager, you're being a creator. You're doing something, you're creating something new that's going to push your business folder. Because I just talked about folders for 10 minutes. Push your business forward, right? So examples of this could be writing sales copy for a sales page. It could be writing cold emails to get new customers or get new clients. It could be doing the actual client work, or it could be creating content like this YouTube video, or writing blog posts, or recording your podcast, something that you are creating. And of course, this should be directly tied to one of your quadrant goals. So this is going to be either where you're exploring something new, you're just creating content because that's what your focus is this particular quarter, or of course, you're going after more customers or building a product. But what's most important is this is something where you're creating something new. So your maker time needs to be something new. Now, if you're full-time in your business, I think your goal should be somewhere between 4 and 5 hours a day. I know that sounds crazy because it's more than half your workday, but when it comes to what's going to make the biggest impact long-term, staying on top of your email is definitely not going to be one of them, right? And if you're in side hustle mode, then your goal should be having 10 hours a week, solid, uninterrupted hours a week, working on your $1 big goal for the quarter, and that could be 2 hours a day, or maybe you just go crazy and try and do a 10-hour Saturday, right? Although I definitely recommend having at least 2-hour chunks throughout the week so it's not so heavy on Saturday, and Saturday can be like more of a bonus than something that's required. Now, the third type of time block you should be setting up is going to be your manager time. So even if you're a solopreneur, you don't have a business partner, you don't have anyone working for you, you just have a couple Fiverr gigs in the works, right? You want to schedule this for at least 30 minutes a day, even if you're still in side hustle mode. So what are you doing during this manager time? Well, you're checking in on emails, you are checking in on your project status, you're getting files organized, and you're making sure that you have everything that you need done so that the next time your maker time block comes around, you can do just that. So your goal in your manager time is to make sure everything else is running smoothly so that your maker time is protected, because your maker time is so important. When you sit down to do your maker time, the last thing you want to do is say, oh, let me just quickly open my inbox to check this one thing, and then 30 minutes goes by and now you only have 90 minutes where you should have had 2 hours. So it's really, really important you utilize that manager time. Of course, if you have people working for you, then you're checking in with them, making sure they have everything that they need. Now, this next one is going to be buffers, right? Because we filled out a lot of our week and you might have no more time, right? Especially if you're in your side hustle mode, that's it. That's your time. That's what you're committed to, and you just need to put your head down and commit to it and work forward. If you happen to have more time, then leave it open. You don't need to schedule every single minute of the day because, after all, life happens, right? We have our goals, and worst comes to worst, you come to that block, you have nothing else to do, so you just go straight into your maker time and you keep making progress on the one thing that's most important in your business. Now, the final one we want to talk about, of course, is going to be your reflect time. So I like doing this on Friday. You might see other videos that talk about doing this Sunday evening, although I find that just gets me too amped up and then I can't go to bed, right? And I wake up Monday morning exhausted because I was thinking about all the things I was going to do over the week. Although I digress, right? So during your reflection time, this is going to be where you go through all of those business ideas that we talked about in system number 1. This is going to be where you go through your collection box that we talked about when we were looking at how to organize your files. This is going to be where you're checking in on your goals. You're making sure that your maker time is protected. You're saying, hey, did I actually spend my 10 to 20 hours a week on my maker time this week? Okay, no, what got in the way? How do I reschedule my week next week so I actually get in all of that maker time? Because it's really important that you get into that maker time. I think I've probably beaten the dead horse by now, but that maker time is really important. That's what you do with your reflection. If you do any sort of journaling, then you can go ahead and do that as well. And I just like doing that on Friday afternoons because it helps wrap up the week. You get all the emails done, you plan your next week, and then you can just relax over the weekend or work on whatever was on your wish list or your side project on the weekend. So that does it for the 5 digital business systems I recommend you copy for yourself to help you stay streamlined and organized in growing and scaling your business. Make sure you check out those timestamps below along with some other helpful deeper dive videos on each one of these systems so you can start implementing them today. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive videos just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.